To Iowa, Republican Senator Joni Ernst. She joins us from Capitol Hill. Senator, you are for Judge Kavanaugh and approving him to move up to the Supreme Court. One of your colleagues, Lisa Murkowski, the only one of Republicans, is a no. What did you think of her argument against the judge when every other Republican, including yourself, was for him?
Well, I sat through the briefs when we had the 7th FBI investigation, the supplemental that came forward, sat through those briefs, and there was absolutely nothing that corroborated any misdoings by Judge Kavanaugh. And so the case to me is pretty clear that we have a very qualified justice. I think he is well qualified to serve on the United States Supreme Court. I think that many of my other colleagues saw the same, and for those that differ, maybe they are trying to make a statement, but I do believe that we will confirm Judge Kavanaugh to be our next U.S. Supreme Court justice.
You know, Senator, I know it's a different state and then you don't get involved in those sort of things, but we've already gotten an idea that a number of prominent, conservatives are upset with Lisa Murkowski's move, including Sarah Palin, and that she could be entertaining a challenge to Senator Murkowski in 2022. What did you make of that?
Well, I think that any senator that maybe steps away or has different thoughts about any large issue facing our nation is subject to challenges from various people, whether it's through a primary or through a general election. But again, as I look through the evidence that was presented, those 302s from the FBI, everything seemed very clear to me that Judge Kavanaugh should be our next Supreme Court justice. So, of course, there will be challenges, and that is up to the people of that state to decide who they want best to represent them.
That was a very judicious response, Senator Touche. Let me step back a little bit. You know, much is made, as it was during the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill back and forth in 1991 and the impact on the 92 elections about would this hurt Republicans? You were among those saying it would not, and that it's a different case. Could you explain?
Well, absolutely. This is, again, quite cut and dry. If you actually look through the information that was presented in the United States, we are presumed innocent until proven guilty. And overwhelmingly to me, it didn't show that there was any wrongdoing on the part of Judge Kavanaugh. So we need to look at the facts, and we need not to convict somebody based on baseless allegations. We certainly want survivors to be heard. That is very important to me. But understanding that, again, we live in a nation that values the fact that we are innocent until proven guilty. Allegations, if they're tossed out carelessly, we shouldn't base decisions on those. It should be based on fact.
Now, the irony might be, to your point, Senator, the House is always a difficult one to call, that race, but it's possible that Republicans pick up a couple of seats in the Senate, whatever happens to the House. What do you make of that?
Yes, absolutely. And I do believe that we will pick up seats in the United States Senate. We will be stronger through this exercise. And I think we can gain momentum in the House as well. I think we have seen that in the last several weeks with the miscarriage of justice, the dragging of Judge Kavanaugh through the mud, placing his family in a very, very difficult circumstance. And the way our witness, Dr. Ford, was mistreated by Dianne Feinstein and the Democratic staff, outing her when she wanted to remain anonymous to share her story. It is shameful on the part of Democrats, and the American public will see that. They will go to the polls and they will vote their conscience, and I think we will gain seats in the United States Senate.
You know, you probably heard what your colleague, Maine Senator Susan Collins, had to say about that letter getting out, that she suspects a number of folks, but not Senator Feinstein. What did you make of that?
Well, I think that Susan Collins, Senator Collins of Maine, is a very, very well-respected woman, and she laid it out yesterday in her beautifully done speech and showed her support for Judge Kavanaugh. And she did point out a few things that the Democratic staff, Senator Dianne Feinstein, had done as well to really out Dr. Ford, and it was a very unfortunate circumstance. But But again, I have the greatest respect for Senator Collins, and many of us, as we congratulated her on her speech yesterday afternoon, I had tears coming down my cheeks because I thought it was so beautifully done. It was very heartfelt, and it really discounted every point that the Democrats were using to vote against Judge Kavanaugh.
Finally, Senator, I know you've been very, very busy, and we appreciate the time, but it looks like this vote will come down to 50 yeas, 48 nays, and then, of course, this unique situation where to recognize Steve Daines of Montana and going to his daughter's wedding, and, of course, Lisa Murkowski, they're not included in that sort of 1-1 split. Leaving that aside, though, it will end up being one of the closest votes for Supreme Court Associate Justice or Justice, ever. I think you'd have to go back to Stanley Matthews in 1881 for a closer contest. That was a 24-23 vote. I remember because I covered it. But anyway, my point was that are we ever going to get back to the bigger numbers that used to be routine, the 97-0 votes that were almost the norm under Democrat or Republican administrations for Supreme Court justices? I know Clarence Thomas in the 52-48 vote after Anita Hill was a unique case, but this is increasingly common now.
Well, Neil, I wish that we could get back to the time when we were confirming justices to the Supreme Court based on their qualifications and not politics. And that's what we have seen with this particular nomination. It's all about politics. It doesn't matter what the facts are. It doesn't matter what the issues are. It is about politics. And we have got to get beyond that. We've got to start working better together as the United States Senate. This really was a very shameful process by the Democrats. I want to commend my senior senator, Chuck Grassley, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, for running such a smooth process in the face of adversity. I think he did a phenomenal job. But bottom line, Neil, we have got to do a better job in the United States Senate.
Senator Joni Ernst, thank you very, very much. Good luck with the vote later on today.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
All right.